Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Watch Rolling Podcast. The Watch Rolling Podcast is a veteran owned podcast that focuses on horology from a veteran's point of view, as well as sharing valuable veteran resources with the watch enthusiast community. My name is Jason. I'm your host. If you're new to the pod, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. The pod is brought to you by the Anti-Watch Watch Club. The Anti-Watch Watch Club is a 501c3 charitable organization that utilizes a drop style culture to provide all kinds of charitable benefits, monetary and otherwise, for law enforcement, first responders, veterans, and you name it. They utilize a drop style culture. They produce stuff like the cool flag behind me, King Kronos, some cool tone it down shirts like this. They also have a Blue Guardian program that helps fund training for law enforcement and first responders who have to sometimes make up for a training gap financially, right? Like maybe the department doesn't make a lot of money and they don't have the ability to afford to send someone to some training, like maybe like some self-defense, jiu-jitsu, negotiation, stuff like that. And they're able to help bridge that gap, which I think is pretty important because the more trained you are, the better off you are and the better servant you are for the public. I like to, first I'll say, apologize for my hair. This was kind of the last second thing. But as everyone knows, yesterday Tudor released an FXD. And if you haven't seen the thumbnail already, um, I have some pretty serious feelings about this, and I want to get into them. Everyone else is doing it. I might as well do it too, and you might as well hear it from someone who was actually in the Navy and was in the Navy for 20 years and still is associated with the Navy. And I have some pretty some pretty personal thoughts on this watch. But so everyone knows it came out yesterday. Everyone, their mothers covered it. A bunch of cool people have actually got to experience them. Some of my personal friends have got to experience them. And I have a pretty decent history with the FXD. I've been able to handle the Marine Nationale FXD. I was pretty impressed by it. Anyone that's heard me talk on the pod before, though, knows that I'm not going to, I was in the U.S. Navy. I'm not buying a French Navy watch. It's just not happening. Um, and then I've been able to, my buddy Eric on Rico's Watches podcast, he has a Pelagos and he has the original one. I think it's wonderful. I got to handle it. Um, I just always thought to myself, man, I would really, him and I have talked about it. I've mentioned it numerous times. I really just wish they had made a blacked out one, a simple one, right? And well, it finally it finally came true, right? So I just got some thoughts on it. I've waited for a long time for what I would call like the normie FXD, right? I like the idea of the fixed lugs. I like the idea of just being able to change straps on, use this thing to work out, use this thing to go hiking, long walks, swimming, whatever you want to do. Just beat the living, what out of it. And I thought about it. I was like, the whole time I've talked to friends, I've told them it's kind of like it's kind of like Tudor has made dinner without providing us the entree, and I think they've now provided the entree. And let me give you my thoughts on that. So the Marine Nationale, cool watch, beautiful, totally capable. Um, it does everything you want to do. You can see here on the screen. I enjoy the fact that they're all pretty much roughly the same price. I know that the Red Bull one's a little bit less, but cost, certification, the whole nine. This one's got a bi-directional rotating bezel, but it's that awesome blue, like a royal blue, just beautiful. I think the fact that Tudor gives us 5-year guarantees. The size on the cases are pretty much all the same. I'm pretty sure the lugs are all the same because some of them don't say they're 22 millimeter, but I'm pretty sure if the black one's 22 millimeter lug width, and it is, they give you excellent water resistance. Obviously, it's a dive watch, sapphire crystal, the whole nine. We know about the Pelagos by now, but I've always felt like the the Marine Nationale one, as cool as it is, and it is pretty cool. I've always felt like that is like a side dish or an appetizer, right? You know how it is. You go to dinner, and let's just clarify something. Some people like bowl people, right? Some people just like want all their food in a bowl and they'll eat it that way. But some people like to sit down and like to have an appetizer ahead of time, and maybe a cocktail. Um, you know, you have a side dish and you have your main dish, right? And I've looked at this and I'm like, so maybe if I was French and I was in the French Navy, I'd be like, oh man, this is sweet. I'm gonna get this, and this would be my, steak dinner or whatever. Uh, I still feel like they should have put that anchor tastefully somewhere on the dial. I think center, like 12 or 6. I think that would have been awesome. But it's got on the case back and everything. That's cool too. Um, but I've always felt like this was kind of like, like some French style cut green beans or something. It's cool. I could wear it, I guess. I wouldn't wear it, but I could. But it would leave me wanting more, right? And I love vegetables. Don't get me wrong. I'm a vegetable guy. But vegetables have always taken a backseat to whatever entree it is I have, right? So even as a little kid, my mom and my sister would make fun of me because I would literally eat everything around the main the main entree, which was usually a piece of meat or something, but I would eat everything around it and save that one for last. And because I really, really always enjoyed, like, a piece of chicken, call me basic, whatever you want, but I mean that's just how it was for me. And I've always felt like that's what the Marine Nationale one is at. It's an app, it's a side dish, it's snazzy. I want it there. I want it at the party. It's cool, but it doesn't satisfy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I've always felt like Tudor should have released like a baseline model first, right? And they didn't do it, but no big deal. And so the next release everyone knows is the Red Bull Alinghi Racing one. Now I thought this one was cool when I first saw it. I said in numerous podcasts it wasn't really for me. I wouldn't get it. I'm not super into yachting, and I'm not super into Red Bull. But as a callback to times long ago, this watch reminds me of a drink or a cocktail. It's I'd like to throw it on my wrist for an hour or two. I'd like to imbibe on it a little bit, but I'm not trying to take it home, right? I'm not definitely not trying to get in my car and drive home with it. Um, it's a little more affordable, but I think this is for a very specific person. And I feel like, they either really like Red Bull, which I'm telling you what, if you like Red Bull so much that you buy a $3,700 watch, man, more power to you. That's like a big flex, I think, in the Red Bull crowd. Now, if you're into yachting, I totally get it. It's a wonderful watch. I mean, the yachting that they do with this, I wouldn't even call like what you would call traditional yachting. They're going like 50 knots on the water. I mean, you can take a look right here. They have the link on the page to the boat. It freaking flies. Like it's flying. Like you make one mistake on that thing and you're pretty much gonna probably wish you were dead. But it's a cool watch. They talk about the Red Bull. Now they have the standard one. They have the chronograph. Um, I think it's a really cool color scheme. I think it falls in line with the extreme sports thing. It's just the nice map, the little pop of red. I've always felt like that red gets kind of washed out on the dial. I feel like they should have done like maybe like some kind of like background or something like that. But I don't know. It's highly contrast, highly legible though. So if you're hauling butt on a boat, then you know what I mean? Like, hey, it's gonna work. You're gonna be able to see it. You're gonna be able to see what time it is. I think it's a cool watch. And like I said, if you're super into Red Bull or you're super into yachting, or if you're super into both, like I wonder, do you? I don't think you could even drink a Red Bull when you're or driving one of these boats, but you can take a look at it there. Really nice, really nice watch. Um, but what I've wanted the whole time is what I would call the main course, right? And to each their own. You may not be into eating meat, right? I get it. Not everybody's into eating meat. I personally love meat, and you know, t- when I saw so I'm just going to call it the Pelagos FXD Black, right? I mean, it's got you can see the serial the reference number there. 4,150 bucks. Same movement, unidirectional, rotating bezel, fabric strap. You get a complimentary strap. It's a rubber one with titanium hardware, which is pretty cool. It's just mm. So first of all, I've been learning a lot of stuff about myself in the watch enthusiast space the last couple, like I'd say like the last year. And shout out to Sam over at Casual Watchdog. I know Sam loves a date, but no date. This is perfection. No date. It's just beautiful. And from what I know from seeing Eric's Pelagos, I mean, I can only imagine. I've handled an LHD and I've really considered getting one, but I've always wanted like what I would consider a funky piece. And to me, the fixed lugs give it just enough funkiness. And this overall color scheme is just subtle enough to where, I mean, this is it, right? This is the gym watch, the hiking watch, the I'm helping my friend move furniture watch. Like I gotta I gotta open a soda can watch. I take my strap off and pop open a beer or a soda. Um, maybe you gotta wedge something out. I mean, it looks like you do pretty much anything with this, right? And if you get scratched, who cares? Because you're just wearing the crap out of it anyways. But as a guy who did 20 years in the Navy, I really appreciate a couple of things about this watch. Number one, if you've seen the Watches of Espionage article, there's been some other posts how these have been in service already for over a year. And they've been in service with some SEAL teams, right? Specific SEAL teams. And for those teams, according to the Watches of Espionage article, I'll link it in the show notes. They're they get their unit logo engraved on the back, which is pretty cool, and a specific serial number, which is really cool too. And they also have the option for a destro or left-hand drive for those of you that are newer watch enthusiasts. So you can have your traditional crown placement like the one we have here, or you could have it over here on the left-hand side. Now I have a couple of LHD watches. I actually have one coming in pretty soon, and they're awesome. Like you can work out in them, like the crown. Like I have bigger wrist and kind of big hands, but like you can, exercise or do anything where your hand bends back and it doesn't really um, jab into the back of your hand too much, right? And so using this as a workout watch, that left hand drive would be pretty cool. But I also think it's pretty cool that they only offer that LHD option to the people actually serving. So that's a little distinguishing thing, right? Which is pretty cool. But as a guy who was in the Navy for a long time, this is what I consider to be a perfect representation of something that's being used without cheapening the overall quote unquote brand or ethos of the unit or the organization they're taking inspiration from or actual usage from, right? And I'll put it to you like this: like you have Navy SEALs, and then you have the Navy SEALs movie, right? And this could have easily been a Navy SEALs movie. They could have put a trident on it, right? A lot of us guys that are active Navy that aren't SEALs, right? Like I'm a surface guy. For those you don't know, I mean surface on top of the water, right? Ships, not submarines, not Airedales up in planes, um, not special operations, which would be the SEALs, not expeditionary, which is a totally different thing, but a surface guy. If they had put a SEAL trident on the front of this, I wouldn't award it out of respect to them because I'm not a SEAL. I didn't earn that trident, right? They could have put a surface warfare pin on there. Um, they could have put other pins on there that I have, and I would have then felt okay wearing it. But I've never earned that right to wear that trident. And if there was something with a trident on there, I'm not going to wear it because that's just faking the funk. But what this does is this color scheme, the subtleness of it. You could wear it in uniform. You could wear it anytime you're doing PT, right? It's a call, it's an ode or an I hate to use the word homage, but it is a sign of respect to your greater service in a special unit in the service, right? Because the Department of the Navy is one big team, and we've all worked together in some capacity or another, right? I've been on ships where we've had the SEALs embark with us, and we got to take them from point A to point B. I know people that have had them in their planes. People have had them in their helicopters. I know people that have had them in their submarines. I mean, it's all kinds of craziness. So um, I think it's just the perfect call to honor a service, and I'm just so happy. I know no one from Tudor's watching, but I'm so happy that you did it tastefully, Tudor. And the one thing I'll say is, for anyone that thinks that this is boring, then I would say stop and consider what you're saying because that's the point. The point of this is to be boring. The point of the metal, the matte, it's titanium obviously, but is to not shine, is to not draw attention, is to not get in the way. You don't want a bunch of superfluous BS there that's going to get in the way of you actually accomplishing your mission, right? And this thing needs to be something where you look down, you know what time it is, you're able to time a couple of things, wham bam, get it done and get in and get out, right? And that's exactly what this watch is. I I want to say hats off to Tudor. You have provided us the steak, and that leads into another thought. Now that we have this beautifully subtle watch, I think it's time for Tudor to do some dessert, right? You have the Marine Nationale. We got our side dish. You got Red Bull Racing. I got my it's not really an aperitif, but it's a cocktail. Maybe it's a pre-dinner cocktail. Um, and now we have the FXD Black, which is this really just nice, freaking meaty, 16-ounce. I don't know, pick whatever cut of meat you like. I mean, I like ribeyes. They're pretty fatty. I like them. But anyways, maybe we need some dessert. Maybe they go, I don't know, think about some super cool dive thing. Maybe they work with any organization that does stuff down that's kind of flashy or something. I don't know, something a little sweet. Something to have afterwards because I feel like this has really tied the FXD line together. I feel like now, Tudor, you have a baseline with your FXD, and I feel like, and I hate to say it, for anyone that buys one that's not super into it, I don't think you would have a hard time selling this afterwards if you weren't super into it because it's not so specific. It's specific in some of the build, but it's not specific in the way it physically looks, right, on wrist. Like, I don't think the majority of people are ever going to notice this. And I'll bring that up too. Some of the people at work that are, getting into watches, that I talked to, the first thing they said was, I would never spend that much on a watch without a bracelet. And I understood, as a person who was a newer watch enthusiast at one time, I get it. Um, but I will have one, and I have a plan that I got to execute because I always want to move stuff out before I move stuff in. And if I'm being brutally honest, I think there's going to be some buyer's remorse, so I might just hang out for a while and see what happens. I can't see that these aren't going to be available for a long time. So within the year, I'll have one. Uh, and again, to each their own. I just invite everyone to check it out and to consider that these things have been used. They have been proven. Not that the Marine Nationale one hasn't, nor has the Red Bull one, because they both have as well. But sometimes steak is the most exciting part of your meal, and you should stop and appreciate that. But with everything, that's my 2 cents. I purposely haven't watched anyone's videos other than the Tudor one, and I actually watched the Bark and Jack one on accident because it came out. So shout out, good video, Adrian. I purposely haven't watched anybody's stuff yet, which is why I want to get this tossed out so I can actually, go enjoy some of the content from everybody. Because I've seen like titles of articles and titles of videos, but I haven't actually watched them. So I'll be able to go enjoy some content from my fellow content creators. And I want to wish everybody a good day. This was filmed. It's Friday. Don't forget. I'm going to post it tonight, so don't forget to tune into the Government Cheese live stream tomorrow night at 2000 Eastern Standard Time. And remember, at watchrolling.com, you make the watch. The watch doesn't make you.